Greetings, this is Ty Brown with AthleticDirectorU. I'm here on campus at Tarleton State University, and I'm joined by Dr. James Hurley. Dr. Hurley is the president here at Tarleton State. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you for taking time to come up today. It's a pretty special day today.
I appreciate you. You have a lovy campus and office here at Tarleton State.
Thank you.
Now, you guys your big announcement you made a little while ago, but there's a big signing, big things happening today in terms of Tarleton State University moving up to Division I.
Right. And you're correct. So we did make the informal announcement, if you will. It's hard with the media today to keep those things under wraps, but our students were excited, our fan base was excited, so we wanted to let them know kind of ahead of time of what's coming. Today is the official ceremonial signing where we will officially accept the invitation to join the Western Athletic Conference, or as we know, better known as the WAC. So yeah, we're really excited about it.
Well, it's interesting. You got here in August 2019. We're here now in November. I imagine when you looked at the university in terms of, obviously they were interviewing you, but you were interviewing them to decide whether or not this is somewhere where you would fit. This is probably something that was on the horizon. Tell me about your thought process as you looked at taking a position here.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one of the reasons why we chose, my wife and I and our family chose to explore Tarleton and ultimately leave Tusculum University, a great place full of great people. But I made it very clear, kind of through the process, and Kendall and I always said we wouldn't leave for a lateral position. And we knew that Tarleton had been reviewing this for many years, actually since 2003, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more later. But it was something that we felt like, meaning the potential Division I move, it was something that was certainly a draw to the institution, wasn't the premise of why we made the decision. The people here are incredible. It's an incredible place to raise a family, and the unique traditions behind this institution. It's just a really special place.
Right. Now, you come in, you take the job, you start putting the plans in place to make the move. We've arrived at the point where you make the move. You've been in academia 23 years, in the administration position 16 some odd years there.
Right.
I wonder about measuring success. Obviously, college athletics, wins and losses, graduating student athletes, you got APR, you got GSR, a whole bunch of different numbers and acronyms. But in terms of academia, how will you evaluate this move as the future comes?
Right, yeah, great. And all those things that you mentioned are important. Ensuring that our student athletes are progressing in a manner that's sufficient toward graduating in 4 years, matriculating to post-baccalaureate programs, et cetera. All those things are really important to us. But the ultimate premise behind us making this move was simply to increase and enhance our institutional profile. Okay. We want to raise our institutional profile to a level that when our graduates walk across that stage, their degree stands among their peers. And so many of the institutions that our students here in Texas, in particular, Houston, the Metroplex, when they enter the job market, they're entering a market of institutions that we want to look like. So our cross apps, the institutions that we compete for students, those are all Division I institutions, right? And so we're in a degree in a world today, Ty, as you know, that degree worth it really means something. Right, and so we have to ensure that our degree is perceived to be worth that of what other competitive institutions look like.
Right, raising the profile is very important in any number of industries, specifically in the higher education, academia, and really in athletics. It's something that you have experience in. You mentioned from Pikeville, changing name University of Pikeville to Tusculum University. Right. All these things. Tell me a little bit about why that's important. Has been important to you throughout your career, because you've left a trail of leaving places better than you found them in terms of that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I think I have. I think that any leader walks into a situation, and I was blessed at this institution and the other institutions where I followed a successional group of leaders that left it better than they found it.
Right.
Here I'm fortunate to serve as the 16th president, and each of the 15 presidents that served this institution, they were at the right place at the right time in the history of Tarleton. I can say the same at Tusculum and the same at Pikeville. Right. So it's imperative that you think about where your institution has been, where you are now, but more importantly, as you start to think about a new strategic plan, Where do you want to be 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years? And so many of our students now, prospective students, they're looking at institutional strategic plans. They're looking at, what's rank? What's the institution rank? Is the school safe? All those things. And so we play all of that into our strategic thought and strategic plan moving forward. And so the Division I move for us was, we felt like it was just that natural next step.
It comes in and it makes sense for you. Now you come in and Coach Reisman, athletics director, been here for 31 years, former basketball coach, been the AD here I think a couple of years in terms of full-time AD. There's a lot of institutional knowledge. In the few months you've been here, do you lean on him for, because there was a transition from NAIA to Division II and now we're talking about Division I. Right. Talk to me about that communication, that relationship when you talk about leadership.
Yeah, Coach Reisman, Mr. Reisman now, and I caution folks to stop calling him Coach Reisman because his son Chris is our coach now, right? And he's our basketball coach, and we have to remind people that Lonn Reisman, Mr. Reisman's our vice president for intercollegiate athletics. He is.
That'll be hard for people to stop calling him coach.
And it's going to be hard for him to stop it.
Responding to it, right?
Yeah, well, he's one of the all-time winningest coaches. Great guy, incredible enthusiasm for this institution. But more importantly, you couched it perfectly. He has institutional knowledge that really no one on my leadership cabinet or really around the institution has. He's been here for 30-plus years.
Right.
And deeply loves this institution. So he has seen the evolution of the NAIA to D2 to Division I. And he and Dr. McCabe started this process back in 2005 when they submitted a letter to the Southland Conference at that point to consider Tarleton for Division I conversion. And so he has remained steadfast in pursuit of this dream. He is a wealth of institutional knowledge because he can pick up the phone and call his colleagues across the country, all of whom which just revel in what he's done for athletics, and in particular the game of basketball. So he's been a tremendous asset for us, and we're really going to depend on him to be our guidepost, leading us through the transition, because it's a 4 to 5 year process, as you know all too well, getting out of the transitional period into eligible, I guess becoming eligible for postseason play, et cetera.
I wonder, you mentioned something there with Coach Reisman talking about calling his colleagues in terms of transition, in terms of leadership, in terms of managing the process as the athletics director. As the president, I wonder if there are people that you leaned on in this process.
Absolutely.
Other presidents, other people in higher administration, even people in college athletics that you leaned on.
No, absolutely. We had a lot of folks that we called and had conversation with. Dave Hart, for example, was the athletic director at the University of Tennessee. I think he's doing some consulting across the country. He and I had a very long conversation just about what it looks like long-term, short-term. President Williams at Dixie State, they're going through the same process. They had a year head start, if you will, in the process. He's been a tremendous asset for me. And then we've analyzed institutions like Lipscomb and Belmont, Dixie, TCU, Abilene, all these institutions that have made this conversion in the last 5 to 10 years. Bellarmine, how are they doing certain things? How are they approaching the process? And it is a process. And so I have reached out to colleagues just to have the conversation about what are the unintended consequences? What are some of the pitfalls that we're not, quite projecting? And everyone has just been so kind.
Yeah, I'd imagine there are a variety of different case studies in terms of moving to Division I that you can look at as you guys walk through this process. You mentioned pitfalls. I wonder, have you seen any yet, or what do you see in the immediate future, the near future here?
No, in terms of pitfalls, we use collegiate consulting. Russell Wright was the consultant, and he had started this process for Tarleton, probably 10 plus years ago. So we've had an updated feasibility study, and I felt very comfortable coming in and making this decision within the first 30 days because the institution had vetted it so thoroughly. Right. And Dr. DeTavio, my predecessor, established a panel led by our former CFO, Dr. Richardson, that really went through all the necessary steps. They had faculty engagement, staff engagement, student engagement. Of course, Russell came in and continued to pour over the data and update the data, looking at all conferences, not just the WAC, but what are 3 or 4 other conferences that could be viable for this institution? And at the end of the day, we trusted our consultant, we trusted our faculty and staff, the leaders that had really been kind of engulfed in this process the last 3 to 5 years. And we felt like the timing was right. The WAC was poised to invite us, and we just felt like the iron was a little too hot not to strike.
Right. You come on and you said 30 days, you make that decision. Talk to me about the process on campus, internally, externally, with constituents, students,
right,
alumni, former student athletes, administration, community, about how you educated them, how you received their input in terms of making that decision. Talk to me about that process.
Yeah, so once I got at the helm of the presidency, a lot of that had already occurred. Again, back to that the last 2, 3, 4 years. But for me, it was gathering that information. It was gathering that data, reading through the reports, reading through the faculty reports, the Senate reports, watching the videos that had occurred with the conversations around. So we held several student forums where faculty and staff could show up, but it was predominantly centered around students because we needed to pass a student referendum to enhance our athletic fee. You and I would not be having this conversation today had the students not stepped up and approved an athletic fee enhancement. I think it was from like $23 or $22 to $35 per credit hour, but we capped it at 13 hours. Whereas some institutions don't put a cap on it. We wanted to remain capped at 13, so our students felt like that it was fair and equitable for all of our students. And we had the largest turnout in the history of the institution for that vote. Oh, wow. And it passed by nearly 70%. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm sure you've seen across the country, a lot of student referendums are failing. Right. When it comes to enhanced fees, not just athletics, but parking, right, student athletic fees, student rec fees. Those are not going so well for administration. But our students have been really, really excited about this. So having those informational sessions was really, really important, and just transparent, right? Holding transparent sessions and being transparent about how we would utilize the funds. Lonn Reisman, our CFO, Lori Beatty, they did an excellent job of showing what your investment is going to go toward, right? And then how will this enhance the reputation of the institution as a whole?
I imagine that similar conversation took place when you talk about donors and alumni.
Absolutely.
How will your investment help us? And
absolutely.
How will that kind of thing?
We engage, great question. We engage with the Texan Club early, and the Texan Club is our base of athletic supporters. And of course, I knew very early they had been supportive of this initiative for the last 2 to 3 years. They've had several votes of confidence in moving in this direction. But I think probably within my first week to 10 days, I met with the Texan Club to garner if they're still interested, if they're willing to support, and if they're willing to step up and support at another level. And when I came in, the term that I used was, this institution is next level ready. But that means everyone else has to be next level ready as well. Students have to be next level ready, fan base, faculty, staff, et cetera. So we've really coined this around next level ready. And they have. Our donor base has stepped up. I mean, we've had 2 football games just in the last few weeks that have been nearly capacity, almost sold out. So that's a great start, and we just have a lot of athletic momentum. Of course, our academic pedigree here has been excellent. We're a school of opportunity, right, and we've been a university of opportunity for 120 years, and that's not going to change. And in fact, we want to enhance that pedigree. Right. We want to enhance the opportunity that we can offer to students, not only in Texas, but across the country.
Right, and then faculty, right?
Absolutely.
Some college campuses, faculty and athletics are clearly on different sides, right, of a chisel, right? Yeah. The best colleges are on the same page. Absolutely. And work together. Tell me about the communication with faculty and your thoughts.
Absolutely, and I can say that our faculty have been very supportive of this initiative. It's funny, when you make these decisions, you always receive some hate mail, and it's always anonymous, right? I can say without hesitation, I've not received one piece of hate mail. Oh, wow. I've not received a nasty letter saying, please go back to Tennessee, this is the worst idea, you're going to destroy your institution. What I've received are a few fair questions. right? And I'm all for question everything, as long as you do it in a civil manner. Our faculty have been phenomenal. They see this as an opportunity to enhance our research scope. They also see this as an opportunity to get us into new media markets that expand our kind of our broad message. And we need to tell the Tarleton story more broadly. Texas is growing, no doubt. This state is growing. But every other state is coming into Texas now to recruit our students. So not only do we have to really fight every day to protect and keep our own students, but we have to start thinking about recruiting students from other states to backfill. And so by going into California and Utah and Arizona and Seattle and those places that Chicago that we get to play in the WAC, that just really exposes the great things beyond athletics. And from day one, I've said this is not about athletics. This is about raising our institutional profile, in particular, our academic pedigree.
Right. In a transition to Division I comes with it, more scholarships. You want to try to create some funds to where the scholarships are not taxing campus and those kind of things. Absolutely. I'm sure you have a 3, 4, 5, 10-year plan on that. Tell me about strategically planning that, including Coach Reisman with it, and just that whole aspect of the move.
Absolutely.
In terms of resources.
Yeah, and that was the one question that I had first and foremost. Can we afford it? Because I'd already, read the 60-plus page collegiate consulting report that said you're ready. But are we really ready? Yeah, right. Can we afford the next level? And so I spent, along with Lori Beatty, we spent an enormous amount of time poring over the books just to ensure that the baseline, that index that we were using for scholarships, for travel allotments, budgets, et cetera, that they are fair and true. And then, what does it look like in the WAC? What does it look like in the other conferences? And can we truly afford to keep up? Right? And we can. Part of that revenue enhancement is going to be built into a comprehensive capital campaign that we will launch in February. Okay. And our goal is to raise an X amount of millions of dollars to supplement our athletic endeavors. In particular, we want to offer more graduate assistantships for our students. Right. I use a model, you talked about colleagues in other institutions, Duke University, for example, and there are a lot of other examples, but they have the Iron Dukes program, where if a student plays all 4 years, graduates from Duke with an undergraduate degree, they have some funding assistance that allows those student athletes to stay and garner a master's degree at probably a fraction of the cost. Right. Those are the types of things we want to do to show that we value what our student athletes are doing for our institution and for the region, right? I mean, this is an economic impact on this region. Oh, yeah. And when you move from Division II to Division I, we've talked about the need for regionalism here since I've arrived, and getting all the other surrounding towns. It can't just be about Stephenville. It's got to be about all the surrounding little towns and cities that will help supplement. So, we're fortunate. We have roughly 85,000 living alumni. I think we have 71,000 alums that are connected in some shape, form, or fashion to this institution. Okay. That's an incredible base for kind of a mid-major regional comprehensive institution. So we're really excited. We've seen an enormous increase in not only prospective student interest since we've made this announcement, but more importantly on the alumni side. Right. We've seen an uptick in registration of alumni, et cetera. So we're those things will, over that 5 to 10 years, will add up. But embedding this move into our 10-year strategic plan will be the most critical.
It makes a whole lot of sense, too.
Absolutely.
Last couple questions here. You got here in August.
Yeah.
We're in November. Yeah. You're still on board. I mean, you're still probably getting to know people around campus. Right. You're still meeting with people. You're still figuring out, but you have this big decision. I'm sure there are a bunch of other decisions you probably made or will make here in the near future. Talk to me about that part, about your leadership philosophy when you arrive at a new organization. Right. And you have to be in the lead. I imagine there's a lot of listening.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I've been doing, a lot of listening and learning. And I want to give credit to our chancellor, Chancellor John Sharp. He has been kind of my sounding post, if you will. He and James Hallmark, who's Vice President for Academic Affairs for the system, they're two guys that I lean on quite often, in particular the Chancellor. Not only is he my boss, he's become a great friend. And just asking Texas advice, right? Because the Texas culture is different than any other state, as every state is different, right? But it's very similar to where I came from Kentucky and Tennessee. It looks a lot like home. And so they've been incredibly supportive. We would not be making this move if Chancellor Sharp wasn't supportive. And the A&M system regents have supported this through, their vote and vote of confidence. So we're just really blessed to be in a system that is robust and one of the fastest growing systems in the country. So that helps. And when you have that network of institutions, we have 11 institutions across the system. It's really easy for me to pick up the phone and call Kelly at Corpus Christi, who's a sitting Division I president, and say, hey, talk me through some of the perils and that you get to deal with each day, or some of the pitfalls that I may want to consider. I think being a president, this is my third presidency, and I was a really young president at Pikeville. Having those experiences at those institutions have certainly made the transition easier, because you kind of know what to expect. You know what questions will come from faculty. You know what questions to anticipate from staff. It's always, how will the students accept you, right? And our student body they've been incredible. They've welcomed Kendall and her family with open arms. Our daughter Blakely, she's one of the favorites on campus. She's their little 2-year-old. So it's been really, really good. The transition this has been the smoothest transition that I've had.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's because of the people.
Right. I always find it interesting to come in and lead, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but the institutions that you have been president have gotten bigger every step of the way, right?
Yeah, we've grown for sure.
Right, and you come in and lead, and you have to really understand the people to work you, from administrative assistants to athletic directors to compliance to law to legal to faculty. It's just interesting to me that there's a slew of people you have to really understand how they operate, and they're all wondering, how are you going to operate? Right?
I get it. Yeah.
That part always interests me.
Well, and my leadership style, I did not answer your question, Ty, and I should fairly. My leadership style is different. I would define it as unique, and I know that about myself. I have several blind spots, and I have to make sure that I surround myself with people that identify those blind spots, and they backfill without me even knowing they're backfilling. Right, I'm a very future focused. I don't look my granddad always said there's a reason that the front windshield is so much larger than the rear view mirror, right? And so I don't spend a lot of time in the rear view mirror. I think we've got to look ahead and move ahead, and we've got to do what's best for our students. And so I am hard charging, I am hard pressing, and I need to ensure that I have people around me that will sometimes pump the brakes and say, okay, let's think about this. It could be a good idea. It could be a bad idea. And I've had more bad ideas than good ideas. But that's leadership. You have to understand your weaknesses. And I have more weaknesses than strengths. And then build a really good team. And we've got a great team here. We really do. From top to bottom, the people at this institution deeply love this institution. And I've been blessed. Tusculum and Pikeville, it was the same. They love the institutions. And I always said I will never lead an institution that's not a school of opportunity. And that doesn't have a base that deeply loves students and that isn't student-centric. And this place is as student-centric as any place I've seen across the country.
Right, and has done that by leaving places better than you found them, and raising the profile, which only benefits athletics, academics, and everybody involved.
We got to be inclusive, right? We got to be inclusive. So I often say this. Obviously, you and I, we're diverse. We're not diverse by the color of our skin. We're diverse in thought. Right, and I want to get to a point in this country where we're not thinking about diversity and the skin tone or what religion or who you love and who you spend your time with. It's about thought. Let's have diverse thought, and with that thought, I think there's a beautiful outcome in that, and that's inclusion, right? And it takes that diversity in thought to reach inclusion.
Right. And all the intricacies and the beauty that can come out of that.
Yeah, right? That's me. I mean, my leadership style is that. It's about bringing people together. It's about unifying around a mission. And it's always about what's best for our students, all students, not a certain subset of students, but every single student that comes under our umbrella.
Right. Well, Dr. Hurley, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on Athletic Director U.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. That was Dr. James Hurley. He's the president here at Tarleton State University. And of course, I am Ty Brown with AthleticDirectorU. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today.